But maybe that not y'all know, but the one besides Keish that I always talk about, and every time I see him, I tell him thank you, because it wasn't like we was enemies, or we didn't hang out together. Was 50 Cent, Mr. Curtis Jackson.
Wow.
Whenever I put in for an appellate judgment or an appeal, he made sure that letters was written. He personally signed them, telling, the judge, if you do grant her this release.
All right, let's slow this down, because what happened here wasn't just another celebrity moment that people could laugh at and scroll past. This wasn't messy entertainment, and it didn't feel like someone chasing attention or clout. What unfolded on that live stream felt heavy, uncomfortable, and painfully real in a way that made it difficult to watch, even harder to ignore. When Papoose went live, the mood shifted immediately. There was no dramatic intro, no upbeat energy, no jokes to soften the moment. He didn't look angry, and he wasn't trying to be theatrical. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired that comes from lack of sleep, but the kind that settles into someone who has been carrying too much for far too long. The kind of exhaustion that comes from holding things in, from choosing silence again and again until silence becomes unbearable. You could tell this wasn't planned for shock value. It didn't feel rehearsed or strategic. It felt like a moment where someone had reached a breaking point, where staying quiet felt more painful than finally speaking out. As people joined the live, the comment section began moving quickly. Familiar names popped up. Faces people recognized appeared quietly in the viewer list. Remy Ma was there. Fat Joe was there. Others hovered in the background, watching without saying much. Viewers tried to understand who was present and why. It felt like a room slowly filling up before something serious was about to be said. There was a tension in the air, even through a screen. And then Papoose began to speak. Not yelling, not ranting, just talking. His voice was calm, but there was something hollow beneath it, like he already knew there was no turning back from what he was about to say. It was the kind of calm that comes after someone has already cried every tear they had. This didn't feel like gossip spilling out. It felt like truth that had been sitting in his chest for a long time, pressing harder each day until it finally broke through. He spoke about nights that didn't add up, about patterns that kept repeating, about situations he tried to explain away, because he wanted peace more than conflict. Anyone who has ever loved deeply understands that feeling. You ignore signs not because you're blind, but because accepting them would mean your entire life might change. Sometimes silence feels safer than truth, until it isn't. Then he said a name that caused the comment section to freeze. 50 Cent. The energy shifted instantly. Phones lit up. Screen recordings started. People stopped scrolling and leaned in closer. This wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. Saying that name changed the weight of everything. But what made it even heavier was how he spoke about it. He didn't throw accusations wildly. He didn't insult. He didn't pull out screenshots or play audio. Instead, he described moments, conversations that crossed lines, a level of closeness that didn't match the version of events people believed. He spoke like someone who had already connected the dots and no longer needed to argue with himself about what they meant. With every sentence, the virtual room felt quieter. According to him, this wasn't about one mistake or one bad night. It wasn't a single moment taken out of context. He described it as a pattern, something that had been happening quietly, carefully hidden, while he was still showing up, still being loyal, still protecting the image of his marriage. That's what made it so painful to watch. This wasn't anger driving him. It was disappointment. It was grief. It was the realization that the silence he thought was protecting his family may have actually allowed the damage to grow. Then the conversation took a darker turn. He said the situation didn't stay between adults. He said it touched his family. And the moment those words left his mouth, the tone of the live changed completely. This stopped being celebrity talk. This became something deeply serious. His voice cracked. His breathing changed. The control he had been holding on to started slipping away, not dramatically, but humanly. The kind of moment that makes viewers uncomfortable because you realize you're watching someone break in real time. The comment section didn't know how to respond. Some begged him to stop. Others begged him to keep going. Everyone felt the weight of the moment, whether they wanted to admit it or not. This wasn't a performance. This was a man realizing that his silence hadn't protected anything. It had only delayed the reckoning. When the live ended, it didn't feel like closure. It felt like the beginning of something irreversible. Clips spread immediately. Before he even logged off, pieces of the stream were everywhere. People began debating what it all meant. Some believed he was finally telling the truth. Others believed he was unraveling under emotional pressure. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. This moment didn't come out of nowhere. It had been building for a long time. And when silence breaks like that, it's usually because the damage happened long before anyone was listening. After the live ended, the internet didn't slow down. It exploded. Short clips circulated rapidly. People rewound sentences, froze frames, analyzed pauses in his voice. Nothing he said felt accidental, and nothing he avoided saying went unnoticed either. What stood out most wasn't what he showed, but what he refused to show. He mentioned messages. He hinted at voice notes. He referenced conversations that existed somewhere off-screen, but he didn't play them. That choice changed the entire tone of the situation. In a culture where people rush to expose everything publicly, his restraint made the moment feel heavier. It suggested that whatever he had was real, serious, and painful enough that exposing it fully could cause even more harm. Instead of convincing people with proof, he allowed implication to do the work. And implication can be more powerful than evidence because it forces the audience to connect the dots themselves. As hours passed, fans started digging. Old interviews resurfaced. Old photos were re-examined. Casual moments that once seemed harmless suddenly looked different under this new lens. The conversation shifted from "did something happen?" to "how long had this been happening?" That question changed everything. Papoose spoke again later, this time with less control. His tone softened. His words slowed. He didn't sound like someone trying to win an argument. He sounded like someone trying to understand how his life had quietly shifted into something unrecognizable. He talked about trust, about choosing to believe a version of reality, because questioning it would have shattered everything he was trying to protect. He admitted there were signs he ignored, not because he didn't see them, but because he didn't want to believe them. That admission resonated deeply with many viewers. Most betrayals don't arrive loudly. They arrive slowly, hidden inside excuses, scheduling conflicts, and nothing to worry about, explanations. By the time the truth becomes undeniable, the damage is already done. Then came the part that made many viewers physically uncomfortable. He said the doubt didn't stay between adults. He said it reached his family. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The weight of what he implied was enough to silence the chat. This wasn't about embarrassment anymore. It was about emotional safety, about identity, about trust being broken in places that were supposed to feel secure. His voice cracked again, not in rage, but in heartbreak. He spoke about loving someone fully, and realizing that love may not have been returned in the same way. About standing in a marriage that appeared solid publicly, while quietly questioning its foundation behind closed doors. At that point, people weren't watching for entertainment. They were watching because it felt wrong to look away. As the clips continued circulating, the internet split into two clear sides. One side believed this was a long overdue truth finally coming to light. They saw a man who had been loyal, patient, and silent until silence became unbearable. The other side saw emotional collapse. They worried about the impact of sharing something so personal so publicly. They questioned whether airing this online would cause more harm than healing. Both sides agreed on one thing: the pain looked real. What intensified everything was the lack of immediate response from those mentioned. No quick denials. No clarifications. Just silence. And silence in moments like this becomes its own kind of statement. People interpreted that silence differently. Some saw guilt. Others saw strategy. But either way, the absence of response allowed speculation to grow unchecked. By the next morning, shock had turned into analysis. Analysis turned into timeline building. Online discussions debated whether this was calculated exposure or the emotional breaking point of someone who had reached his limit. One interpretation kept gaining ground. This wasn't about revenge. It was about exhaustion. Exhaustion from unanswered questions. exhaustion from protecting an image that no longer felt honest, exhaustion from believing silence would save something that was already fractured. As the dust settled, it became clear this moment wasn't designed to pass quickly. This wasn't a viral clip meant to disappear. It was a fracture. And fractures don't heal just because people stop talking about them. Life would continue. Careers would move forward. Music would be released. Public appearances would resume. But something fundamental had shifted. Once a truth is spoken out loud, it can't be taken back. And once doubt enters a space built on trust, nothing ever feels the same again. This wasn't the verdict. But the trial had begun.